may have a good future. So I want to talk about something that happened yesterday that's a real, I don't want to say signal, a real indicator of a little bit of unrest in the Republican ranks. President Trump pulled Congresswoman Elise Stefanik's nomination to be the next ambassador to the United Nations. The president announced the move on Truth Social, writing in part, "With a very tight majority, I don't want to take a chance on anyone else's running for Elise's seat. There are others that can do a good job at the United Nations." Stefanik's House district voted for President Trump by more than 20 points in November and was thought to be a safe GOP seat. But a recent Democratic election in Pennsylvania, Republican stronghold, where Democrats hadn't won in 100 years, and Donald Trump had won that seat by 15 points, along with some competitive races in Florida, have Republicans worried about the majority. As it stands, the GOP can afford only losing two votes if the House is to pass its agenda. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries weighed in on the move in a statement, writing in part, "The Republican agenda is extremely unpopular. They are crashing the economy in real time, and House Republicans are running scared." What happened to their so-called mandate? Well, Chris Matthews, they didn't have a mandate. They won by like 1.5 percentage points. Yeah. America is a 50-50 nation. I mean, I've been giving the same speech for like 30 years. You know, Republicans win in, 94. Bill Clinton wins in 96. I mean, Democrats overperforming, 98. Republicans win. You can go 2 years by 2 years by 2 years over the past 20 years. There's always this reflexive back and forth, and a lot of it has to do with administrations overreaching. Joe Biden, didn't have a landslide win, but, his first big speech, "I'm FDR. I'm going to do all of these things on a relatively thin margin." You have Donald Trump doing the same thing. George W. Bush did the same thing. And, they're talking about a permanent majority in 2004. Nancy Pelosi's House Speaker in 2006. There is, for people that are thinking, the results of this election are going to shape the next 30 years. They usually don't shape the next 30 days. That's just the nature of politics in America.
Reagan picked up 33 seats in 1980 when he won the presidential election. He lost 26 in 82.
Well, and talk about winning 49 states in 84, 86 Democrats take the Senate back over. 86 was a disaster for them. Richard Nixon wins 49 states in 72. He's out of office like 18 months later.
He's got a couple signs of a weakness. Stefanik going back to the House is a big sign of weakness. He's worried about points, a couple seats in New York, especially, where there's going to be some back and forth.
Right.
But I also look at his performance. Last night, Peter Alexander had one hell of a report last night. He pointed out in the evening news that Trump is very angry at Michael Waltz about Signal.
Right.
And he's got to be angry. And the president has to be angry right now that somebody screwed up the worst week he's had.
Right.
And why did that person do it? I'd want to know who did it, why they did it. Are they on somebody else's team? I wouldn't understand why you have come up with a name Jeffrey Goldberg right in the middle of these other guys.
Right.
Why would you do it? And I'd want to know who did it. And I remember when Jack Kennedy went through the Bay of Pigs, he called up the #2 guy at CIA and said, "If this were a parliamentary system, I'd have to resign."
Right.
You have to resign.
Right.
And Alan Dulles, the head of CIA, has to resign. You got to take steps or you're part of the cover-up. Nixon, a week after Watergate, on the 23rd of June, he did the cover-up by telling Haldeman to tell Vernon Walters at the CIA, tell the CIA to tell the FBI to stay off this case. Okay? Nixon, in that moment, got himself kicked out of the presidency.
Right.
You got a week. You got about a week to play around before a cover-up begins. And I think Trump has to decide right now: are you going to do what Peter Alexander reported last night on NBC News? Are you really going to be mad or not do anything?
Right.
And that's the question mark. Be part of the cover-up.
And the thing is, Mark Leibovich, this was actually avoidable. We were warning the morning before Jeffrey came on our show about an hour and a half later to stop this.